Okay, everyone's asking me how to go through their breakthrough journey, and here's the thing. I can't tell you how to go through your journey because that's the whole point of it. You have to figure you out, but I can tell you some of the things that I did that helped me go through mine. And I understand that attention spans are not what they used to be, so I'm gonna try and talk fast, but if you wanna really deep dive, you're gonna have to sit through shit like this. About 4 years ago, somebody randomly came into my life and they introduced me to The Secret. Now, I had read it and come across it about 10, 15 years prior. I didn't need it at the time. I wasn't ready at the time. You have to be ready for it. So I decided to listen to it, and I was like, you know what? I've lost all hope in everything else. Why not give it a shot? It is The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. It is a book. It is also an audiobook, and it's somewhere on TV on one of the networks. I don't know which one. You can look it up. And at this time, I had no money. Life felt like everything was against me until after I listened to this, I slowly started to realize that the only thing that was against me was myself. And so I decided to start listening to some more motivational stuff like podcasts and stuff in the morning while I was working. And I couldn't even tell you what I listened to. I literally just searched things. I didn't want help from anybody, and it's okay to ask for help, but I wanted to figure this out for myself. So through listening to all of this stuff, slowly I started to be more positive and tried to be more positive. And I had a lot of good days and I had a lot of bad days. I said to myself, hey, if I don't keep going, what's the fucking point? I'm gonna end up right back where I was, and I can't go back there. It's only up from here. And you don't need to know what I went through or what I came from. Just know that I made it out of the fucking trenches. And if there were days where I was like not having the best day, I would revisit The Secret. I would really, really instill that in my head. And then if you remember, I had talked about, I went onto The Secret website and I printed the checks from the universe. I filled them out in 2 different amounts and I put them on my fridge and I looked at them every day and I envisioned that number in my bank account. And then like most people, when you're searching Zillow or whatever you're searching and you find a house you love, we printed our dream home and we put it on our fridge. And we didn't say, oh, we're not going to be able to afford that one day, or I hope we can afford that one day. We said, we will have that house one day. That's our house. And we envisioned ourselves in that house. Which brings me to the way that you speak, because I really started changing the things I was saying every day. I used to say FML in full every single day, 1,000 times a day. I haven't said that in probably at least over 2 years, because think about what you're putting on your life when you say that every day. Your words are more powerful than you think. So we were not in a good financial spot, and Scott was just exploring different opportunities throughout different places, and one was down here, and he was like, oh, but that's crazy, we'll never move. Hang up the phone, call him back 5 minutes later. I said, but what if we did move? Sure enough, we said, fuck it. 2 weeks later, our house was on the market and it sold within 4 days. We still didn't know where we were going. So while we were at my parents' house, we flew down here, and within 24 hours, we bought the exact house that was on our refrigerator. I'll never forget walking out of that. Ooh, sorry. I'll never forget walking out of that office. Scott looked at me and said, I think we manifested this, because he was kind of on the fence with this whole thing. And like, it was at that moment that he was like, okay, this shit's real. So we're living at my parents' house. I still don't really know what I'm doing with my life. I had my embroidery business at the time, but I was doing it at my parents' house, and I was working with a commercial company. But then when we decided to move here, I couldn't move this stuff down here. They were based out of New York. It wouldn't have worked, and I didn't know what to do. So I said, I have an option here. I either have to apply for jobs, which I did, many, and I didn't hear anything back, or I have to try to make social media work. So I decided to give it my all. And when I tell you, when we first moved in this house, I still did not know how I was going to really take care of my part of the mortgage. So this took time, and it took risks, and it took believing. I had faith we would be able to afford it. So over time, I started having like tarot card readers and stuff up on my FYP. And I remember even making a video back at my parents' house in New York, and I was like, what is all this stuff I'm seeing? People are throwing energy at me, and woo, I don't even know what it is, but I like it. Stuff that you would normally pass by because you'd be like, this is stupid, this is crazy. I started really listening to it, and then I started journaling, and I started saving videos, and I started writing signs down. Then I started seeing angel numbers literally all the time. I started looking them up. You have to look into this stuff. I started looking into my birth chart. You can go to Cafe Astrology is just one, for example, and explore all different avenues with this. But through all of this, I figured myself out, and then everything in my life that had happened to me that I felt initially that was so much trauma and initially felt like, how could this happen to me? Why would this happen to me? Now I'm like, oh my God, that happened for a reason. I know exactly why this happened to me. If I would have never gone through what I went through, I would have never gone through this journey, and I would have never become the person that I am today. And I wouldn't have the knowledge and the tools to help other people. I've struggled with weight my whole life, and I've always had really bad diets and coping mechanisms, and I weighed myself 1,000 times a day. I started realizing that the more you focus on wanting something so bad, the less you're gonna get it. You have to be grateful for what you have and what you are now. I started looking at myself in the mirror, and I went from, oh my God, I can't believe this is what I'm looking at, to, no, you are such a beautiful bitch. You are gorgeous. You are a light in this world. You have a beautiful heart, because that's really what matters. Keep that in mind. And I'm so grateful. I mean, really think about it. I'm so grateful that I'm healthy. I'm so grateful that I get to walk around. I'm so grateful that I have certain things that other people wish they had. Then I started yoga, and I started meditating, and that really helped my mind, body, and my soul. But just because yoga worked for me, I mean, kickboxing may work for somebody, or maybe reading works for other people. It's all different. And I'm telling you, I spent hours and hours and days just journaling, trying to figure myself out. Like, putting all of the pieces together of who I am and why I'm here. Just recently, I actually thought back to college, and I've never even thought about this in my life. Between different certifications and my master's, I was in college for years, but it never made sense to me that my 2 favorite classes in college were astrology and public speaking. And here I am. And I didn't come up with this, but I read something the other day that said when you worry, worrying is worshiping the problem. And it hit me sometime this year, actually, that when you worry, what is it doing? It is putting you in a low vibration. Everything around you is going to be in a low vibration. And I know for a lot of people this sounds insane, but for me personally, I'm like, if I worry about something, it's not changing the problem. It's not changing anything. It's literally just driving me crazy. There's no reason to worry because everything is going to work out the way that it's meant to work out. And I know everything is situational, but that's what works for me. It doesn't mean it has to work for you. And if it sounds crazy to you, that's fine. It doesn't to me, it works. I went on that plane last year and I felt sick. I was insanely riddled with anxiety. And then I got to Seattle and I came home and everything was fine. Why did I drive myself crazy? Those were hours of my day that I could have spent being present, enjoying the process, and that's where I am now. Every day I talk about things that I am so grateful for, and I really just thank the universe. I thank God. Whatever you're into, it doesn't matter if it's religion, universal, whatever. People really have a hard time if they are one way or the other, imagining that they could be combined. For me, they are, and again, that's what works for me. If it doesn't for you, that's okay. I isolated myself so much. I removed anyone toxic out of my life, and I know that's also sounds something crazy because it's like, oh, how could I just remove? You can. You can. You just have to do it. And the more I loved my life and the more I felt grateful for my life started loving me back. The more I loved my body started loving me back. And one thing I always struggled with my entire life, and I had so many missed opportunities at the time, it seemed like it, because I never had confidence. And I found my confidence through this, which I think is the most important thing, because I don't care what you think you look like, confidence is the most attractive quality that you can have. You can have the most standardly beautiful looking person and they can be super insecure, no confidence, and then you can have the exact opposite, somebody with all the confidence. That person's probably going to have more people looking at them. And through talking to my girlfriend earlier, I realized something. I've always said my whole life up until a few years ago, you always want what you don't have, right? If you have curly hair, it's like, oh, I wish I had straight hair. If you have straight hair, oh, I wish I had that beautiful curly hair. We always are focusing on things that we don't have that we want. In reality, we need to be happy with what we have. The whole point is to be grateful for what you have, and then the better and the new will come. That is my take on it. If you disagree, I'm sorry. That's just how I feel, and that's how my journey was. And I hope that this helped you. If you made it through this whole video, I hope it helped you and explained everything. And I could talk for days and days and weeks and years about this, and I will be doing so on a bigger scale one day. Mark my words. I love you.